All right, welcome everybody. So today we're going to go into a discussion about GLP-1s and the various products that are now out there for bodybuilders to use. And we're going to discuss which one of these GLP-1s are best for you as a bodybuilder, why we might use one over the other, and in my opinion, which ones are superior. Today we're going to break down those three big players in the GLP world. So from Ozempic, a single action Ozempic itself, Semaglutide to a dual agent in Tirzepatide, and now very common and popular, the triple threat of Retatrutide, and discuss which one's going to be best for you. So hopefully my goal is by the end of this discussion, you'll be able to find which one fits your needs and your goals and try to educate you a little more on what I think is the best one for a bodybuilder and what applications we would use them for. Quick disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only. This is not medical advice. I'm not prescribing you anything, telling you what to do. This is from my experience, my anecdotal experience with clients, and my own experience myself with using these peptides, and just giving you an honest opinion on what I think is going to work best for you. Let's get into that next. All right. So GLP-1s. I'm sure many of you heard about them. They're very popular today. Everything from one of the original ones, Ozempic, Semaglutide. A lot of these have been around for a while, been prescribed as diabetic medications, and now are really starting to become popular in the world for helping people deal with weight loss, obesity, as well as managing diabetes or glucose disposal itself. They're becoming very popular in the bodybuilding world. Guys are using them, and women left and right. But there's options. We got to decide which one works for you. So let's just go into exactly the three different facets of GLPs and give a quick rundown of what they are and what makes them all different. Let me pull up some of my notes here so we just make sure we hit everything. So starting with the basic GLP-1. So we're talking Ozempic, and also known as Semaglutide. So that is a single facet GLP-1 peptide itself. And what that GLP-1 affects is basically your hunger response, also helps with insulin and blood sugar regulation and gut emptying. Most bodybuilders are going to use it just for that basic aspect of appetite suppression when hunger gets sky high. As we all know, during contest preps, if you've ever been through one or just been on a hard diet, eventually ghrelin, your hunger hormone, catches up to you, and this is constantly feeding your brain with thoughts that you're hungry and you need to eat. And it can become quite distracting and difficult to fight through. And as my friend Justin Harris always says, ghrelin always wins, which is true. Hunger always succeeds. So Ozempic itself is really just a basic product where that peptide is really just going to be addressing one facet, and that's going to be the hunger itself. But also with eating less food, that'll trickle into the downstream effect of obviously having better insulin sensitivity just by eating less food, possibly dropping body fat, which is most likely going to happen. That's going to give you a scenario where insulin should be in a better place because you're not overburdening the body itself with food and carbohydrates. So GLP-1, Ozempic, Semaglutide, very basic. Now, what's the pros and cons of Ozempic? So strong appetite control, which is one positive that bodybuilders are going to obviously utilize. You have to be careful, though, of course, with dosing. Dose dependent does make a difference on how hard you crush your appetite. So most things like Wegovy, Ozempic, Semaglutide, those are going to be basically clinically have been shown to start. They start the dose at about 1/4 milligram, 250 micrograms. They'll stay there for about 4 weeks, and then they'll titrate up another 0.5 milligram for the week, and then 1 milligram each week until they reach the max dose of 2.4 milligrams. So pros for bodybuilders are going to be strong appetite control and can have significant weight loss as well. And it's helpful for when calories really get low in an aggressive prep scenario or hard cutting scenario itself. Negatives is it doesn't hit as many metabolic pathways as these other newer GLP peptides. It's really, again, just a one-faceted aspect. And I've seen people that use just semaglutide itself flatten out So that's something to pay attention to as well. Adjust diet appropriately as needed so that doesn't happen. Now let's get into the next one. So we're looking at a dual agent GLP-1 in the form of commonly known as Manjaro, or Tirzepatide is the, not clinical name, the brand name is Manjaro, Tirzepatide, the peptide. Now, this is a dual agent, so this also has not just GLP-1, but has what's called GIP. The GIP is a second facet to the peptide itself that helps with a little bit of slowing gastric emptying as well. It improves insulin response and might help a little bit in that facet with preserving muscle, but compared to glutide, the single action GLP. The pros for bodybuilders, again, is going to be better blood sugar management, more muscle sparing potential itself, can give a smoother fat loss process, and with a little less of the stringier look from flattening out. So one negative is that the dual agent Tirzepatide itself doesn't directly increase calorie burn or increase metabolic rate. We'll get into that and how the GLP Retatrutide does that, but we don't get that aspect out of Tirzepatide. All right, the next one, which is the newest rendition of these GLP-1s. So I might not say newest, but it's a triple agent GLP itself. So not only this is Retatrutide. So this is not clinically approved or prescribed by doctors at the moment. I believe it's still currently in its phase 2 clinical trials. So they're studying and testing this product and seeing how it reacts currently at the moment. But there's a lot of promising feedback from some of those that I've been reading into. I think Retatrutide is actually quite interesting compared to the others because it does a little bit more than what the others have to offer in the sense of just appetite control and insulin sensitivity and a little bit better nutrient uptake from the slowing of the gastric emptying. Now, Retatrutide has three facets, and that's the GLP-1, the GIP, which we've already talked about, and then the addition of glucagon into the product itself. Glucagon adds an increased resting energy expenditure and promotes fat loss and fat oxidation itself. So this is actually raising your metabolic rate and helping you burn calories better than you would without the product doing the same amount of activity. So there's one positive to that itself. Why bodybuilders would use it, their pros for Retatrutide, again, a lot of the similar ones from above, appetite control, plus with the glucagon, it's getting a direct metabolic boost, raising your basal metabolic rate as well. It's pretty effective in fat loss itself. Of course, it's shown to also help bodybuilders in different phases, not just cuts or prepping for a show. Me, myself, my first time I ever used it was actually in a rebound from a show to help manage my hunger as it progressed from show period, the day after the show when I was extremely hungry, to getting into that rebound where you're waiting for your ghrelin hormone to regulate itself as well as leptin and balance back out so you're not having this continuous hunger and food noise in the background playing, always telling you you're hungry even though food's quite high, usually in those phases. It's also going to help you during like these mini cut phases in the off season. So that's one pro that bodybuilders are going to appreciate is when you get to these points where maybe food gets really high, you need to take a break from the food or you're getting a little chubby, insulin resistance is creeping up on you. The introduction of just even a small dose of Retatrutide can be quite beneficial itself in that recomping phase or when you're holding your weight before you push food back up. You can boost your ability to recomp a little bit and burn a little fat in that holding phase itself. So that's great. So yeah, good for off-season cleanup phases or aggressive mini cuts. The negatives to the cons to Retatrutide from the way we see it right now is it's still a new product. It's being researched currently. It's not been approved for medical use, though I'm very confident it will be, and it will be popular, and it'll probably make some of these other GLP options a little obsolete. So there's less long-term safety data that we have at the moment compared to the other products, though things are looking pretty promising. If anything, it's been helping people in other ways than just fat loss and insulin sensitivity. The other negative could be a little bit more expensive and hard to source where it's not a product that's FDA approved at the moment. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, like I mentioned, Retatrutide is quite interesting itself. That starting dose, so again, Wegovy, semaglutide is going to start at about 1/4 milligram. They suggest starting Tirzepatide about 2.5 milligrams and titrating your way up. Retatrutide doesn't really have one yet that they've come out with, but anecdotally from people that I know that I've talked to, my own experience with clients in my own body, it seems 2 milligrams is really the beautiful sweet spot of a great starting dose for all people per week. So me, myself, I also like to break up the dosing. I don't like taking one bolus dose per week. So I would split up that dose maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday to get a very stable blood serum concentration of this peptide and keep those ups and downs with hungers and satiation more stable and level. Other positives to Retatrutide, which I wanted to mention, is we're really starting to see things like other improvements than just fat loss itself. Some of those other improvements are extra health benefits, I guess we can call them, to Retatrutide that we've seen is not just lower blood sugar and improved A1C, but it's shown improved lipids. I've seen reductions in LDL cholesterol, in triglycerides, and slight improvements, possibly from Retatrutide as well, in HDL improvement scores as well. Lowering blood pressure is something that's also helped as well, just by likely fat loss and improved vascular health from that pressure being alleviated from the unnecessary weight. We've also seen, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I have seen Paul Barnett was talking about how he's seen on himself, or as well as seen in some study information, that people have been noticing improved liver health in ridding fat deposits, fat strips from the liver. So this is going to greatly improve your ability to keep a healthier liver by not having to worry as much about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or fat deposits built up into that liver, which can really make it hard for the liver to do its job itself. And then with a poor liver, not only does it have a tough time digesting and ridding your body of toxins, but the liver also helps with digestion in the sense of excreting bile, stomach bile, salts into your digestive system to help you break down food and uptake those nutrients. That's a positive as well. So there's definitely some other positive aspects to Retatrutide, not just the fat loss aspect itself. So that's great. Now let's just kind of talk about comparing all three of those in somewhat sense of side by side in some of the facets that we're going to use them for as a bodybuilder. So when we really look at three things like appetite control, muscle sparing during this process, which one kind of doesn't affect breaking down muscle tissue or keeping it difficult for you to retain the muscle that you worked so hard for, and actually the fat burning potential itself. So with those three aspects, I look at all three of them have pretty much equal appetite control. I would say pretty much 4 out of 5 stars to Ozempic and Manjaro for that. But I think Retatrutide slightly beats out appetite control. It's not as strong as appetite control as something like Manjaro or the Tirzepatide, but where it has a bigger spectrum of dosage, you can find your Goldilocks zone of the dose for appetite control a little bit better. So for myself, for example, like a therapeutic dose was around 1 milligram for the health benefits. By the time I got to that starting dose of 2 milligrams, I immediately felt the appetite control, but it wasn't overwhelming. So that's a positive. But if I wanted to, I could titrate just 100 micrograms at a time upward until I found that sweet spot I'm looking for. Where stuff like Manjaro and especially Semaglutide, the dosing spectrum is so small. You're talking 100 micrograms could be a big difference on something like Semaglutide to your appetite control. So I give Retatrutide the advantage to appetite control just because of the dosing capabilities. I'd say they're all pretty equal on muscle sparing potential. Maybe you get a little bit of an edge with Retatrutide where it's actually assisting to a point in liver health where so digestion can improve. It doesn't seem to have such a strong GIP effect compared to some of the other products, which like Manjaro, which can really slow down digestion, which is a good thing and a bad thing. We don't want food piling up and building up inside of our GI tract, but we do want to have an adequate amount of time for that food to sit there and have its ability to break down and be absorbed more efficiently. Now, I'd say pretty much for these three products that fat burning potential directly, I'd really only give a 2 out of 5 stars scenario, let's say, to Ozempic and Manjaro, where something like Retatrutide give 4 out of 5, if not better, just because of the addition of the glucagon itself is actually aiding in the oxidation of fat, the lipolysis itself. So if you're in a cutting scenario, you're trying to clean up some body fat, You can control appetite, improve digestion, probably improve some of the lipid scores and liver health, and as well as have a fat burner that's working from the triple threat Retatrutide, which is something the other two products are not going to be able to do for you. When would we use these and why? I already mentioned the obvious one for show prep when hunger gets high and calories get low, and that mental fatigue of the diet and the food noise is always there in the background. You're always thinking about your next meal. This can help you. Either one of these three can help alleviate that scenario for you. Post-show recovery, I would give the edge to something like Retatrutide, because again, that's going to help keep you lean during that period and allow you to still digest food pretty well without that super full feeling like some of the other GLP-1s seem to give. So that's good where you can keep a cleaner off-season rebounding out of a show. So I'd give the edge to Retatrutide with that one compared to the others. Same scenario with off-season mini cuts. If you get to the end of a bulking phase, you want to clean up and then push a little harder for a little longer. That would be something that Retatrutide would shine compared to the others. I'd give the edge to that one. Not that you can't use the other products like Ozempic and Tirzepatide, but I'd really say Retatrutide is going to shine because you can find that sweet spot for the dosage. As well as any health phases. You can literally just microdose this and get a scenario where you're going to improve your blood lipids, lower some of your inflammation, drop a little bit of body fat, and improve your insulin sensitivity. And maybe not even affect your hunger at all, but do all those other things in the background with maybe like 1 milligram of Retatrutide per week. That all being said, quick rundown of these peptides and how they're used and the differences between them. Which one's the best? Which one's superior? It's a good question because I think application plays a part. Now, let's just assume that budget and availability is equal to all of these products. Then I would say that in a few different scenarios, Retatrutide is going to probably shine best in all facets. Anytime that you can take a product to get you the direct goal and output of that drug reaction with lowering your appetite and helping you find an easier way to adhere to your diet is going to be great. But then having these side benefits or these parallel effects, side effects, you want to call them, of the positive aspects of Retatrutide, where you're actually able to improve some of your health factors on your blood work at the same time as getting your main objective accomplished, is really where Retatrutide as well is going to shine. I think that's shown to do a better job with insulin sensitivity than even something like Tirzepatide has that doctors are prescribing to help others with that scenario. Which one's the best? In my opinion, there's an application for all of them, but I really think that if a bodybuilder is going to use this in any facet, their best decision when it comes to GLP-1 fat loss peptides, I would be choosing Retatrutide for sure. So that's just my opinion. You guys can experiment on your own, do as you please. That's sometimes the best way to learn. Ask around, talk to people that have experience as well, and study these things yourself and try to get answers to the questions you're looking for. But let me know in the comments below if any of you have tried any of these, tried all three. What's your opinions on them? What's your experience? And which ones have you decided to get rid of, and which ones are going to be in your go-to toolbox for your next cut or show prep or rebound or even mini cut or cleanup phase, whatever you want to call it. I do think that they're going to change the way that bodybuilding is done. I think it's going to become a facet just like testosterone is and growth hormone is and clenbuterol and all the Anavar and all these different products become staples over time. I do think that, yes, they're new. Not all bodybuilders are using them now, but I think these GLP-1s are going to be, even for just helping them improve their health markers and not affecting their appetite, is going to be something they're going to highly look into. Something that we all understand, this sport's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So keeping yourself healthy for a long period of time, we're always able to pull different strings and utilize different supplements and products that'll help that. So that way we can accomplish our long-term goal and be successful in the sport and then walk away hopefully as healthy as possible and happy as well. Appreciate you guys watching. If you want more bodybuilding breakdowns of different compounds, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be trying to put up more different peptides, which is a discussion of the flavor of the week is peptides. It seems like that's what everyone wants to know about because there's so many of them and they're new to the game. So I'm going to try to put out some of that information down the road so I have more coming to you. But please subscribe and share. and give me a comment. Tell me what you think of these products and what you'd like to see next. So hope this was helpful. You guys have a good day. Talk to you soon.